Welcome back to the agenda, everybody, with your Missoula County Commissioners. I'm Josh Slotnick, and I'm here today with my friends Juanita Vero and our special guest, Jordan Hess from Mountain Line. Our buddy and fellow Commissioner Dave Strohmeyer is with his son hauling out a gigantic bull elk out there in eastern Montana somewhere, so he's not with us today. So we're just going to dive right in.
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, you bet. Well, welcome back. I know this is not the first time. If somebody's never taken the bus before, how would you walk them through the process of finding a route and getting on the bus?
You know, the first thing to keep in mind is that it is so incredibly simple. I think people, when they want to establish a new habit or try something new, they treat it as this big hill to climb. You know, think about your New Year's resolution to go to the gym more, and really going to the gym that first time, it's not that hard. But when you think of this, you know, I'm going to change my commute patterns, or I'm going to change my behavior, it becomes this insurmountable issue. And so the bus stop, I mean, it's as simple as locating where the bus goes, where it stops, and where you want to go. We have an app that assists with that. It's called the Transit app. We have a really excellent customer service person, Bethany, who will answer your call and walk you through it. And all of our supervisors do travel training. So you can call us up and say, hey, here, I'm trying to go from this address to that address. I need to be there by 9 a.m. How do I do it? And we'll walk you through it.
During what hours of the day? Can I call this number and get a human being to walk me through my anxiety?
You can reliably get a human being Monday through Friday, say 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. But really, anytime we're opening, you most likely will get a human being.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And we staff up, you know, if there's weather or if there's anything that causes a higher call volume, we'll make sure that we're resourced for that. So we really try to help people out if they have a question about when the bus is coming or what stop to get off at. We try to make it as easy as possible. And again, like trying for someone who maybe hasn't ridden the bus, it can seem intimidating, but it's not. Our drivers are all friendly. The service is super straightforward. There's no fare to pay. So you just find the bus and you get on. And that's all there is to it.
And there's an app. Super great. Super great. So I've heard that Mountain Line is in the process of converting over to an electric fleet from a diesel fleet.
Yeah.
Where are you guys at with that?
So we are...
but when did you start?
We started before the pandemic.
Wow.
Actually, the university got the first 2 electric buses in the community, and Mountain Line followed suit a few years later. We started in 2018, and we got 6 battery electric buses at that time. And, you know, the market has been changing a lot. There's been a lot of technical developments, a lot of technical advances. And so we decided early on that we were going to pilot a couple of different manufacturers and really see which one was the most efficient, which ones did the best in winter weather, which ones were the easiest and most cost-effective to maintain. And we really settled on a single vendor out of the 3 that we tested.
Great.
And we just took delivery of another 10 battery electric buses from that vendor.
10 buses.
10 this summer and 4
Wow.
last fall. So
Wow.
14 in the last calendar year. So we're up to 26 out of our 29 buses are electric at this point.
Oh my gosh! So you only have 3 left?
Yeah.
So the 3 dinosaurs that you run into around town, that are from like the 90s, 80s?
The old colors.
The
They
pale,
have the old colors too.
Yeah.
Yeah, the oldest ones we have now are from 2009, but they definitely have a different color scheme.
And a different odor.
Yeah,
You get
and
stuck on your bicycle behind one.
You know, we run them into the ground. I mean, we'll put
great.
well over 500,000 miles on them over their
Wow.
life.
Wow.
So those buses have seen a full
They
life.
don't owe us anything.
They don't, yeah.
Yeah.
So with the vendor of these buses, does training and maintenance come along with this?
Yeah.
Because I imagine this is a new world right now, and there are a lot of skilled mechanics out there, but probably not that many that know how to do electric buses.
Yeah, you know, and we've been very fortunate. One of our longtime mechanics, Cody, has just really taken the reins on training. He's our training foreman,
Great.
and he's done a ton of research and gone to a ton of trainings and is really adept at maintaining these vehicles. I think that's the biggest thing is that, you know, his enthusiasm and willingness to learn the new technology has really inspired the rest of the crew to
That's fantastic.
to do the same. You know, at their base, that so that they have a lot in common with a diesel bus. A lot of things are very similar, and then at their core, there's a lot of things that are a lot simpler. So there's no oil changes, for instance. Mm-hmm. A lot of the cyclical preventative maintenance just doesn't occur on the same cycle. We replace brakes a lot less frequently because the vehicles have regenerative braking, so they charge the batteries up with when they're stopping rather than wearing down brakes, which are a consumable part. So a lot of things like that really make for a simplified maintenance. And the buses cost more up front, but over the life of the vehicle, they cost significantly less to maintain and operate.
And are we hoping to get how many decades out of each bus?
So when you buy a bus with federal money, it has to last for, depending on the type of bus, usually 12 to 14 years or 500,000 miles, whichever comes soonest. I always joke that buses are designed, just like anything under warranty, buses are designed to disintegrate on the,
On the day
the day after. But I mean, in all honesty, we get a lot of life out of them. Our oldest buses now are from 2009. We'll keep those on the road for a while longer yet. And we just, our team does a really good job of keeping them maintained, keeping them on the road, keeping them running.
Were there any major infrastructure changes you had to do at the shop to accommodate this electric fleet?
Yeah, so we put in charging infrastructure is the biggest thing. We put in chargers for all the buses, and right now we're maxed out with our feed coming in from the utility. So at our current location, we really can't add any additional electric bus charging infrastructure because we're just maxed out without upgrading the incoming feed from the utility. So one of the things that's on the horizon for us is this new facility that we're building with federal funds out by the airport, and that'll be our forever home, I guess, if you will.
Right.
Right now we're on 2.2 acres, so if you come by at night, it's like a game of Tetris trying to park these buses. I mean, they're just
one in, one out.
Exactly, yeah, and or like those puzzles where you have to slide the blocks around. It's not very efficient how we are right now, how we're stored right now. We've just outgrown our space. We've been there since the 80s, so this new facility will accommodate a significant expansion in transit service, and it'll also accommodate, it'll have the power supply to accommodate a much larger electric fleet as well. It's not that sexy to think about a bus storage facility.
There's nothing more sexy.
Like that. But, the ability to store and maintain buses and to hire and train more drivers, to adequately have space for our admin staff. Everything about this facility will create a strong foundation for future growth of transit in Missoula and in the surrounding area. And so that's, I think, what's really exciting about this facility is that we're leveraging $40 million in federal funds to build a significant facility that'll serve us truly for decades to come.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, that's great.
Tell us, what's the project timeline for that?
Yeah, so, like any major construction project, it's complicated. We're actually closing on the land possibly before this podcast hits the airwaves.
Whoa!
Within a day or days, we're going to get the closing done.
Wow!
So that's been a couple years in the making, just acquiring the land. The big piles of dirt out by the airport with the Grant Creek relocation. That's where we're going to be. So the city just cut the ribbon on that project last week, and so now our parcel exists on the other side of the creek, and it'll be much more tangible once we have the land. But we're hoping to break ground in 2026, and then it's about a 2.5 to 3 year construction project.
Wow.
So it's a major project.
I love this. The first time I met you was when we were in DC for the Build Grant Ask, and I just love this kind of full circle because now you're out here where dirt's been moved and now you're responsible for it.
Well, and I was at the city's ribbon cutting the other day. I mean, Senator Daines' staffer was there, and we were talking about how just at the same thing. We were standing on this exact bluff, looking out over the Build Grant area with the senator, and
I remember that well.
And now it's on the ground. It's
cool to see that it can happen. But folks generally think of the bus, errands or get to work or to school, but we have some exciting new opportunities for serving recreationalists.
Yeah. So I guess at its base, Mountain Line and any transit system really connects people to their community. So like you said, traditionally we think about connecting people to economic opportunities, or we get veterans to work, or seniors to appointments or social opportunities, or we get students to school. But Mountain Line is very different from a lot of smaller community transit systems because we've focused on making the system really livable. So we've focused on providing service that's a high quality service. There's a transit dependent population, and we're always going to do everything we can to serve our riders who rely on Mountain Line and who count on it. But there's also a segment of our community who would consider riding the bus or would ride the bus if it was convenient enough, if it was frequent enough, if it was an enjoyable experience. An example of that, we provide service every 15 minutes on our routes 1 and 2 on weekdays all day. We provide service 361 days a year. Evening, weekend, Saturday, Sunday, most holidays, we're out there providing service to the community. And if you think about that frequency, a bus that comes every hour means that you're 7 minutes late to your doctor's appointment or 53 minutes early.
Right.
and so along those lines of really trying to create a livable community and a community where transit is a lifestyle choice, we launched this pilot service this fall, and it just wrapped up, and it was 7 weeks of service to Marshall Mountain. So we had a bike trailer that we pulled behind one of our buses, and it was available for people to take their mountain bike up or to take a picnic or just to get up and hike. And it was Saturdays and Sundays from the downtown transfer center. And the real inspiration for this, I was talking to City Parks Director Donna Gockler some time ago. The city used to charter school buses from back in the 90s, and they would do a family programming up in Patty Canyon. And she said that they would encounter children who lived in Missoula with the National Forest as their backyard and had never been on the National Forest.
Wow.
And for us, we really wanted to be able to provide an opportunity for people to access recreation and to access Marshall Mountain that wouldn't have otherwise had the opportunity to.
So how did it go in a 7-week pilot?
It went great.
Nice.
We had some incredible ridership.
What were the dates? The 7 weeks?
It was like September 13th or so, somewhere in early September through the end of October.
Perfect.
And imagine this is all oriented around outdoor recreation. That the weather probably played a role.
And what we wanted to do was test this out. We had all the pieces in place. We had the vehicles. The trailer manufacturer loaned us the trailer basically at cost.
Wow.
They rented it to us for $1 plus nominal charges to deliver it to us from Washington. So the whole thing was pretty scrappy, and it was really a pilot to see what the community demand would be like. And so, there wasn't a lot of promotion. There wasn't a lot of time to really build a lot of enthusiasm for this. But we had some great ridership. I mean, we had days when we had several dozen passengers.
Wow.
We had days when we had very few, and those were days that corresponded with snow or rain. So I think we learned a lot, and one of our tasks over the winter will be to figure out how to sustain some community support for this and how to bring it back next year.
I really like what you're saying about transit and quality of life and livability, because transit should help people get where they want to go. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they need to go to work, sometimes they need to go to school, and sometimes they want to go play.
Yeah.
And Marshall Mountain is a county park, and it's kind of a gem of a park, and people do want to go there.
Yeah.
So here I want to throw you out another question that's a little bit separate from this, but kind of rhymes with it in a bit. Let's say a person is not part of the transit-dependent population, and they're not getting on the bus to do any of the things we mentioned. And they might say something like, well, bus isn't really for me. It's not my deal. How would you respond to such a person to show them, actually, you are benefiting from having such an active and comprehensive bus system?
Yeah, and it's a great point. And I like to joke that there's an Onion headline that says 95% of Americans support public transportation for other people. And
it's fantastic.
And it's kind of it's humorous, but there's a kernel of truth to it. And I think part of that is that transit really does benefit us all. So if you drive and park downtown and you're able to find a parking space, that is in large part because some people are riding transit. Or if you breathe air in our valley, the air quality is improved by the fact that some people are riding transit. And transit also it's just a great equalizer. You might have a university faculty member riding right adjacent to someone who's going to a social service office out on Palmer. Transit's just a great equalizer within our society, where you get people from all walks of life in the same space. And I think that's fundamentally important.
It's important for our community.
It is, yeah. Regardless of whether or not someone rides the bus, there are tangible benefits to the community of the service existing. It's just like our community benefits from there being a robust fire service, even though we all hope our house will never catch fire.
Right.
It's the same sort of thing where it's the greater good that we're all investing in, and that investment just yields.
Could we say society works better when people can get to where they need to go?
Yeah, absolutely. When people can access opportunity. And here's actually a really tangible way about how this impacts our businesses and our just our communities more broadly. The American Public Transportation Association has a statistic that is well supported with research that every dollar invested in public transportation yields $5 in economic gain.
Wow.
It's one of the best returns on an investment from an economic development standpoint that's available.
Amazing.
Well, and one piece maybe, I guess, about the economic benefit is that transit vehicles that are operated or that are purchased with federal funds have to be built in America. So there's actually a Depression-era law called the Buy America Act that is in full force.
I didn't know it was that old. I thought it was much younger.
Yeah,
that's Depression era.
Yeah, it's an
Wow.
old law, and it's and different federal agencies interpret it differently. But the Federal Transit Administration has pretty strict Buy America requirements. So vehicles have to be made in America. Now, obviously, there aren't buses being manufactured in Missoula, Montana, but there are bus parts that are made in Montana. There's a manufacturer that makes scaffolding for accessing, for doing maintenance on the roof of buses that's based in Lewistown. And there are components that come from the area, and there's obviously, the staff to support and maintain buses. Mountain Line employs 125 people from Western Montana in good jobs that pay well, that can support a family. And so there's economic benefit through the employment and through the manufacture of the vehicles, but the real benefit comes from helping riders access their economic potential.
Oh, that's fantastic. So, Jordan, I had heard that when buses charge for a ride, they don't necessarily make, and I'm saying this in quotes, make money, in that there's a cost to collecting money, and that zero fare could actually move you farther ahead than charging money. And Mountain Line is zero fare. You want to talk about the process of how you made that decision and how the system runs without this?
Absolutely.
Without fare?
Yeah, so we have been zero fare since 2015. And we don't say it's free because it's not free. There's a cost of providing the service. And so there's zero fare. The fare is subsidized through other sources. But in 2015, we made a decision to do a 3-year zero fare pilot. And that pilot program was based on getting other contributors in the community to continue or increase their financial contributions. So there were a lot of employers, Missoula County, City of Missoula, University of Montana. There were a couple dozen employers that paid for a major employer pass program. The Downtown Association participated, and any MDA member could ride for free. So there were several of these different employers, and they covered the vast majority of the cost of the fare. Most of our riders were covered by a major employer pass program. So we approached all of those partners in the community and said, hey, would you commit to paying your major employer pass program for the next 3 years, and we'll raise some extra money to buy out the rest of the fare box. And so we actually raised enough money to just replace fares and through contributions. And we did that. We ran that program as a partnership program for several years. And in 2020, we went to the voters and said, is this something that you value, and is this something that you want to continue? And the voters overwhelmingly, it was almost 60-40,
wow.
With that mill levy ask in 2020, voted to sustain the zero fare program.
When you were doing the pilot, what did you see in ridership numbers?
Ridership immediately spiked by about 45%.
45%. That's staggering.
And it was almost overnight. So, and that was accompanied with a couple other service changes, so that was part of the picture.
And it's not as if fare was expensive.
Exactly.
There's something about not having to pay or think about having change in your pocket.
There's a psychological
incentive, Are we on to that? What does the research say about zero fare?
Yeah, do either of you have 85 cents in exact change in your pocket?
Never.
Now I barely ever have any cash on me at all.
Yeah. There's been a lot of advancements in fare technology over the last decade, so there's been a lot of ways that paying fares on other systems has become more convenient, but it is still a convenience factor. And then there are also, there's a lot of people for whom a cash fare is a true economic barrier. So it's an opportunity for people to access the bus who might not otherwise access it, and it's also an opportunity for folks who can afford the fare to not have to worry about the convenience factor.
And is it true to say it costs money to collect a fare?
Yeah. So, every fare box is basically a safe, with a bunch of electronics in it. So if you were to go out and buy a bus fare box, that's not a very common purchase, I guess. But if you were to go out and buy a bus fare box, you'd be looking at about $30,000 to $50,000 per bus. So there's the cost per bus.
And then the staffing of managing that fare box.
Yeah, managing the fare box. And then there's a giant safe. Each of those fare boxes comes with a tool to pull the cash out and dump it into a giant safe at the facility. And then there's, the staffing overhead of having a couple of people. You have to have a couple people anytime there's cash handling for accountability. So there's There's the overhead of counting and managing that money. So there's a true cost to collecting fares and to counting fares. And then there's also there's an opportunity cost of waiting at a bus stop for someone to pay a fare. So if you're waiting for, all these people boarding the bus to pay a fare, we actually found that we were able to speed up our routes pretty significantly because people get on and we get going.
That bottleneck is eliminated.
Yeah. So we cover a greater distance. We cover a greater distance in the same period of time. We serve more people, and the cost per ride, because the fare doesn't cover the full cost. So the cost per ride actually goes down with zero fare.
Wow.
So we're getting more efficient. And on top of that, public transportation everywhere is remarkably safe, but the one problematic trend in public transportation, and particularly bus transportation in the country, that there's been an increase in assaults on bus drivers. And nearly all of those are fare disputes. So by removing the fare dispute, you remove the potential
more conflict.
Exactly. You remove the potential conflict. Anywhere you go, public transportation is remarkably safe, but this this little underbelly is not even. It's a complete non-issue here in Missoula.
Wow.
Oh, that's great.
That's
Thank
amazing.
you. Okay, well, then I have one. But when folks complain to me about the fact that they don't see buses that are full and there's only like 3 people on these giant buses, what's the best answer? I don't have a clean answer for them.
Yeah. I got up in the middle of the night to get a glass of water, and my street was empty. I looked out the window. There was nobody on the street. But we don't question whether or not the street should be there. Or there was nobody on the sidewalk, and we don't question whether or not that infrastructure should be there. There are times of day when the bus has standing room only, and there are other times of day when people need access to the community and there needs to be a bus in service. We do our best to balance that demand and to provide service when it's needed, but the reality is that there are times of day when ridership is lower, but that doesn't mean that people shouldn't be able to access the community.
Thank you for that.
That's fantastic. So, Jordan, you spoke really well about the pilot out at Marshall Mountain. If I understand it right, Mountain Line also played a supportive role in the UDash shuttle bus system that was bringing people out to Cheyron.
Yeah.
Which is a project I've been involved in. I'm really excited to help get more cars off the road in that area. You mind talking about how this went?
Absolutely. So UDash has been running the river shuttle for several years now. I'm not sure, maybe.
And then they had to pause, but I think in part, I'm not sure what role you guys played, but we were able to bring it back.
Mountain Line stepped in and funded the shuttle this year.
Way to go. Thank you, Mountain Line.
And UDash, UDash is a great partner. They do such great work in the university area, and they've been a bit cash constrained in their operation, and they've really had to step back and reflect what is a community benefit and what is a student benefit. And their student government leadership just decided that the river shuttle really wasn't part of their core function. But it's a great benefit to UDash to be able to run that in the summer. It helps keeps their buses in service. It helps keep their drivers employed. It certainly serves a lot of students. It also serves a lot of community members.
Oh, yeah.
And so we saw the benefit of helping. It's been such a good partnership with the county and Clark Fork Coalition and and all the different partners that have helped make it happen. And we just saw tremendous value in helping sustain it.
Oh, fantastic. Well, thanks a lot for playing that role.
Absolutely.
It's crucial, and really hope it continues.
And thanks. And I think it's like the Marshall Shuttle, where providing car-free access to recreation, it's in line with our growth goals. We're doing all of this work, and especially within the city limits, we're doing all this work to increase the diversity of housing types and to make it easier to get around. But a big part of why we live in Western Montana is so that we can get out and recreate.
And this type of recreation is in itself a kind of form of transit where people go up there with an inner tube and then they ride the tube back to town.
And it
works out really well.
It turns what is necessarily a 2-car ordeal
to no shuttle.
Yeah, to a 0 or 1 car.
Yeah. It's kind of like you're the ski lift, but for inner tubes.
Yeah, exactly.
It brings you to where you start. Thanks a ton for being involved in that. There is a great community benefit there.
Thanks. Yeah, no, it's been our pleasure.
So what's on the horizon?
Oh, we've got so much going. So so the first thing that's front of mind for us is just continuing to advance this facility. I mean, we've got to get this built so that we can expand in the future. But we just completed our transit service plan this last spring, and there are several short-term recommendations within that. We've made a few of those changes already. Some of them are pretty minor. The most exciting change is that we're rolling out what's going to be called the Route 10 next summer. So that's a one-seat ride from downtown to the Franklin to the Fort neighborhood.
When you say one seat, what does that mean? No transfer?
No transfer, okay. Yeah. And so right now you can ride from Franklin to the Fort to downtown, but you have to go either by the mall and the university, or you have to go around through North Reserve.
It's a direct flight.
It's a direct flight from that, from the Franklin to the Fort neighborhood downtown, and it'll serve Wyoming and Craig Lane, and it'll really open up a lot of, a little bit more of an east-west connection as well. So that'll really complement our existing service. It'll add a higher frequency of service to an area that doesn't have it right now. That's really exciting.
What's the app called again?
It's called the Transit app.
Transit app, folks.
Yeah, and it's actually a nationwide or worldwide app. You can utilize it just about anywhere, and but we partner with them to make it available to people in Missoula. That information will be on the app. All of the upcoming service changes they're like service hour neutral. So it's not going to cost any more. We're basically shifting resources around from other areas. We went in with a scalpel, with real precision, and trimmed a few trips here and there to be able to come up with enough service hours to launch this new route.
Oh, fantastic. So there's big changes on the horizon, as you described. If people want to learn more about the progress on the new facility out west of town, or new routes coming online, where do they go? How do they learn more about what's up with Mountain Line?
We've got a couple of social media channels. We've got a great informational resource on our website, mountainline.com, and we're MSLA Bus on Instagram and on most of our social media handles. So that's a great place to learn what's going on. We've got a new video series coming out that will showcase some of the destinations that folks can get to in Missoula. So we're excited about that. But yeah, connect with us on social media, or drop by and talk to our customer service at the transfer center. We've got friendly people waiting to help you get on the bus.
Great.
Oh, I just downloaded the Transit app.
Oh, great.
I'm about to do that.
Open it.
Because now you can go anywhere with that.
You can,
right?
yeah.
When visiting whatever city or place you're in.
Absolutely.
Well, so, okay, we're closing up here. Share with us a good book or nugget of wisdom.
So
podcast,
a film,
anything.
piece of poetry or music.
Yeah. So I'm going to steer
Art.
away from, I've been reading a couple of good political books lately. I'm going to steer away from those and say that actually there's this great book that is called The Transit Street Design Guide, and it is produced by the National
Association. For your job,
It's produced by the National Association of City Transportation Officials, NACTO. But it is not dry.
I heard last time they went to Vegas for their convention, they had to close down the city. It was too much. NACTO's coming, just forget about it.
But it is actually, it is a design guide for designing streets that are accessible to pedestrians and transit users. It sounds really dry, and so I'm not doing a great job of selling it.
But is there a city that's like incorporated some of this, or like I don't even know how to visualize what you're.
So it's like if you have a bus stop, these are the ways that you can place it so that people feel safe and they feel secure and they feel like they're part of the community, and if you use this kind of bench, it'll invite more participants.
There's a common theme between all sort of physical public developments. That design is so important.
Yeah, it's all about placemaking and about how people interact with the space. And one exciting project that we have on the horizon is our bus stop improvement program, or bus stop improvement plan. And that is that if you look at some of the bus stops on Route 4 and in Bonner and West Riverside, and people have put
the three-legged stool that's put out there.
I mean, people have put lawn chairs out because there's no seating. Like people have adopted the bus stops and have made their own improvements to them. And as an agency, we're following up with seating and lighting and trash cans and amenities, shelters where they make sense, and so we're planning for that in order to make transit more accessible. So this design guide actually, you don't have to be a transit nerd to enjoy it. It's it's pretty interesting.
Oh, we'll have to check that out. That tip and the Transit app.
Oh, I'm excited about
two big
both,
takeaway tips. Thanks a ton for coming today, Jordan. It's great to see you.
Thanks for all the support, and thanks for having me.
Thanks, everyone.
Great to see you.
Thanks for listening to The Agenda. If you enjoy these conversations, it would mean a lot if you'd rate and review the show on whichever podcast app you use.
And if you know a friend who would like to keep up with what's happening in local government, be sure to recommend this podcast to them.
The Agenda with the Missoula County Commissioners is made possible with support from Missoula Community Access Television, better known as MCAT, and our staff in the Missoula County Communications Division.
If you have a question or a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, email it to communications@missoulacounty.us.
To find out other ways to stay up to date with what's happening in Missoula County, go to missoula.co/county updates.
Thanks for listening.